This is Eric Rutan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew McKay Smith.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in yet again to another installment of the show. Gosh, I'm almost hitting the 700 episode mark at this point, and this is a great example of the sort of conversations that I truly enjoy having, because Andreas from the group Cabal, they're a group from Denmark, it turns out he's a bit of a thinker. Here's why. Throughout this conversation, in addition to the music, of course, we talk about music. That's what this show's all about. But it's not just about music. Also like talking about current affairs, social issues, and politics. And it turns out Andreas has his head screwed on, and we're able to discuss not a wide range of issues, but we're certainly able to touch on some issues that I think are worth talking about. So if I could summarize my podcast in an episode, this may be a very good example. The catalyst for the conversation with Andreas is due to the launch of a third album from the group titled Magno Interitus. It is out now via Nuclear Blast, and here is a sample. If you are listening via the podcast apps, it is titled Plague Bringer. Once it's done, we'll dive into the chat. All of you on YouTube, you know the drill. Can't play music, so we're going to cut to the conversation right now. Either way, let's go. Hey, Andreas, how are you, mate?
I'm pretty good. Just getting ready for tour. It kicks off tomorrow.
Nice. Whereabouts are you headed?
Most of like mainland Europe and UK.
Huge. Who are you touring with?
Oh, it's the Never Say Die tour. So it's going to be Suicide Silence, After the Burial, Current, Spite, Invent, Animate, Us, and Boundaries.
Huge shows. Wow.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, bloody oath. Have you done a big trek like that one before? I assume you have, but this is a big show with Suicide Silence.
Yeah, we've done like pretty big shows. We toured with Knock Loose and Lorna Shore earlier in the year as well. So things are pretty good, like in that regard right now.
Well, of course they are. I mean, you've got this killer album out, Magno Interitus.
Yeah, thanks, man.
It's heavy as shit, man. You've really nailed it on that perspective, and I believe that's the strategy, if I'm not mistaken, is to make a brutally heavy album with some nice electronic elements.
Yeah, you're not far off.
Yeah. So is the album? I think it's your third album, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Do you think this is the album, though, that's going to bring you up to that next level, like, you know, the Die Artist Murders and the Suicide Silences and Fit for an Autopsy? Do you think it's going to get you to that level?
I think it's a really, really important stepping stone in getting to that level. I don't think we'll get to those guys' level just yet if we ever do. I think like that's quite a jump from where we are now. But we could definitely feel like already this album has done quite a bit for us. Also, since we signed to Nuclear Blast, we felt like that was like a huge step up for us.
How did that come about with Nuclear Blast? Can you tell me the story?
Yeah. So we were on a small German label that for some reason kicked us off. I can't remember why, but I was really happy about it because I'm not to be a dick, but the deal we had was not very good at all. And so we got kicked off. I remember being at my office job I had back then, and we just being, yes, we're finally like free, because I felt like our music was worth way more than we were getting. But we were like we were dumb enough to sign out on for like a shitty 3-record deal. But then like our man just put out the word, hey, the Cabal is available, and the label started bidding, and we ended up taking Nuclear Blast.
Sounds like an easy decision.
Yeah, it was like there was some really good offers for some cool labels, but we just felt like Nuclear Blast had the best offer, and they're like the Nuclear Blast. So
I think they can do the most for you. That
was like what we thought. Like they have like the old label we were at were like 2 people. This label is 100 people. So we can really feel the difference. Like now we have an entire team like dedicated to helping us, and where on the old label, like you would have 2 guys doing everything. So like now we can really feel that people are specialized. So our SoMe manager is just doing SoMe. Our marketing person is just doing marketing. I really feel that people are allowed to specialize, which obviously makes them like excel at it.
Yeah. You've been doing interviews, I think, for a few weeks now for the album, and you've been speaking to some churches, like here in Australia, I think, for the first time, if I'm not mistaken. So has the feedback been generally very positive for you?
Yeah, it's been really, really good. Like, it's been everything we hoped for. It's been like a few people who hated us because we used electronics in the music, and you're not allowed to in true metal. So,
but that old chestnut,
Yeah, exactly. But so far, like, I think like all the reviews have been like around 8.5, 9. I think is the average out of 10, which is cool. Like, it doesn't, honestly, that stuff doesn't really matter, but it still feels good that people like it. And the fans' reception has been really, really good. So,
yeah, I know what you're saying. It doesn't matter, but it does at the same time, because it's important that you receive good feedback, valuable feedback based on the work that you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also like we like read every fucking review there is, and a lot of them, like the good ones, will all, like a review I can like a review a lot, even though it criticizes our music, because it's like if it has valid points, it's like, oh shit, there's actually something like food for thought, something we might need to consider.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing you. There's a lot of people with some time on their hands, I think, and the social media experts out there, we all cop it. I'm just a measly podcaster, and we all cop it eventually. But not, I don't cop it that often, believe me. But especially with some Cradle of Filth fans, yes, I do cop it from some of them, because I've done a lot of interviews with the ex-members. But you're on the road and you're meeting people. So how do you find meeting fans and meeting drunk people and stuff on the road? Do you enjoy that side of it?
Yeah, like most of our fans, like I think like 90, 98 or 99% of them are just fucking nice people. Like, I'm still like a bit baffled that people actually want to fucking come out and buy our stuff and take pictures. And like, I'm in my head, we're just still a bunch of weird dudes from Denmark who decided to play breakdowns in the basement. And now people kind of like took notice, which is cool. It still feels kind of surreal. I'm really grateful that people just want to support it. So, and like, I mean, on tour, I usually don't really drink anymore, but so sometimes like super drunk people can be a bit much, but most of them mean really well. So like, that's not that much of a bother.
I think there's some bands out there that need to take a leaf out of your book, that's for sure, on that front there. Yeah, fans mean well. Okay, they might not come across that well, but fans always, almost in every instance, mean well. Except for on Facebook and social media, that's a completely different scenario. In the flesh, it's a different thing, you know. But, you're the second band from Denmark that I've spoken to in 24 hours. So I had a good chat to the bassist from Disneyland After Dark, DAD.
Oh yeah. Oh shit, that was like a band I feel like everyone like in our band listened to as kids.
Yeah.
They're a huge fucking deal over back home. Yeah. I feel like they were also like big all over the world, at least for a while. Like,
they were popular in Australia in the late 80s, funnily enough. That we were their first overseas territory to get a really high chart ranking.
Oh, really?
Yeah. There's always been that thing with Australia and Denmark and Scandinavian countries in general, where we sort of do well in each other's territories.
Yeah, it is actually true. There's like a lot of Australian bands who do well over here. I was like, I never really thought about that, but now that you pointed out, I can actually like see it.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I went through uni with a bunch of Scandinavians. There are a few Danes, not many, but heaps of Norwegians and a lot of Swedish people, and we seem to have something in common. It's something that makes no sense. And I spoke to Thomas Hackey from Meshuggah about the same thing, and he agreed. It's this thing that sort of exists that nobody can sort of put a finger on why it actually has happened, but here we are. We all seem to get along for some reason.
Not complaining about that. That's always a good thing.
Yeah, indeed it is. Yeah. So just talking about the album again, I was reading the presser that John sent through, and it states that the theme on the album is the great decay that's happening all around us. So it's hard not to see that anywhere. But in what aspects of this great decay that's going on, you know, in American politics and even European politics, certainly here in Australia, it's going on. This rise of woke and all this bullshit, you know. I mean, is that what you're referring to, or is it more about something else?
The rise of what? I didn't catch that.
Oh, woke culture and, people being put into boxes and...
Yeah, I feel like there's like with woke, I think for the most part, a lot of the woke culture, as I'm a diehard leftist. So I think like to a certain extent, So I'm like, we're from Denmark, we're a socialist country. So our left-right scale starts like to the left of where everybody else's begins. So we are like by nature, I think we're pretty much left-leaning, most of us, because we're kind of brought up in it. But I think like the thing I was kind of like referring to was kind of like how the inherent selflessness of humanity kind of like really got to shine during like the pandemic and shit. Like one good example was being like from our own country, like we had a shit ton of vaccines left over, but we wouldn't like more than we could use, but there was like, we did not want to send them to like poorer countries who didn't have anything and like all that shit. Like, so we'd rather just let them die. Like, so which felt kind of bad being here, but like, oh shit, I do not agree with this. And also like fucking World War III on the rise, probably like 1,000 kilometers from where we live. Like, so all of this, it just feels like, and like fucking what's it called? Inflation and like gas price, everything's just going up. People have to sell like, we're like standing right before like a major financial crisis. And there's like also the whole like human rights thing in the America was also like influential, but it seemed like there was so much fucking bad shit going on. Fucking Australia caught fire in the beginning of 2020. It was like the climate changes, and now you guys are flooded, right? Or
yeah, but I got to look. One thing I'll say though is we've always had bushfires and we've always had floods. There's an old poem by Dorothy McKellar that talks about that. And I just think in this modern era, everything gets weaponized. Okay, to your point. But I think if I can state this, what I feel like you're a smart fella. I can sense that. Okay, I bet you're able to hold a conversation with someone who has traditional right wing or conservative views without punching somebody in the face. And that's what's missing these days is that centrist perspective of just being able to have a conversation. And when I talk about the decay, it's this rise of the woke and the finger pointing, and you either believe in this or we're going to kill you. But metaphorically speaking, and that's a lot of the youth are coming through. Yeah, it's just toxic what's going on at the moment.
It is, but at the same time, I would pick that toxicity. I feel like it's going too far a lot of the time. Like, also like fucking crucifying something like somebody tweeted something 10 years ago. Like you're entirely like new person. Like I said dumb shit 10 years ago that I shouldn't say, and I know that I've changed. Like I think most people times change, so like you can't really. don't think you can be held accountable to the same standards like of today. The thing now is like now you have a digital like footprint. People will be able to go back.
Yeah.
So that stuff is bullshit. But I'd rather have like the more woke leaning kind of like tendencies than like the counterpart of like I don't know fucking Andrew Tate and all that bullshit, like the misogynist stick like traditional values, which aren't really like traditional. It's just outdated.
It just seems like a parody on traditional values, guys like Andrew Tate. I understand where you're coming from with that one there. Yeah, I think he's a bit of an outlier though.
Luckily, the only thing is that he took up so much of the like media time, like that, like he would be in front of impressionable, like dumb young kids like all the time, and like. I know when I was fucking 14, my brain was fucking melted. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, so. I could see like how it could have like kind of like a damaging effect because it gets so much media attention.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear. Yeah, I'm in my 40s, so I only know who he is because I see him come up on Twitter and stuff, and I go, okay, who is this guy? And then I read about it and go, okay, that's who he is there, and don't pay any attention, But I understand what you're saying with the young people. We've always had an element of that with these tools that get out there on both sides of the aisle, left and right wing politics, who have put their hands up, and really they're using politics as a means to attract attention to themselves, because that's when you scratch the surface. I think that's what it's about.
Yeah, it's just populism. It's not. It's just about getting elected so they can like further their own personal agenda. They feel like people like that, like with a lot of politics. That's the problem here in Denmark. They don't give a flying fuck about like actually changing anything. They just want to get like the cozy position, stay in parliament. So they'll just say whatever they need to say. Like once it's time for election, we just had that in Denmark. Yeah,
same here. It's the same in all Western democracies. Yeah,
it's such bullshit. So yeah, that's also one of the things I'm really like mad about. Just like, again, it feels like the world is falling apart and the people in power don't give a flying fuck about it because they just want to get rich.
Yeah. Politics is, it's the mechanism of politics is about the worst way to have leaders running a country, isn't it? And we all seem to understand that, but it's the only mechanism we can all agree on. Westminster system, like we've got in Australia and Canada and the UK, and I think you've got something similar there in Denmark. Like with it, you've got an upper and lower house and a senate and that sort of thing. Is that how it works there?
We have like 179 like members of parliament, members of different parties, and then we have like one prime minister who will be the prime minister will be in the leading party, like the one who gets most votes and stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Same.
So, and they have to kind of collaborate on stuff like. But yeah, it's like, honestly, it feels like no matter who's in charge, it doesn't really change anything. Unfortunately, like to me, it feels like a lot of that shit is just empty words. That's at least what most of them have. Like they say, they promise a bunch of things and then nothing happens. Like no matter if it's like left wing or right wing, like government.
I like that. I was listening to Joe Rogan and somebody on his podcast a couple of years ago said that all elected officials, or words paraphrasing here, of course, I won't get it completely right, but elected officials need to go and take ayahuasca or LSD before they enter into parliament and they're passing bills and this sort of thing. I absolutely agree with that. It's not as absurd as it sounds. No,
I am very I think that would help a lot. Or maybe, because there's also the thing, like, I don't think that psychopaths or sociopaths, they will benefit the same way as like either you and me would from something like that. And that, with saying that, I just feel like that's a lot of the people who get attracted to being in these positions of power are people with those kind of like, I always want to call it a mental handicap, but
that's about on point. It's such a weird job. There are some great local. I believe you can be very effective at a local level. We have local government councils here, and like cleaning footpaths and making sure that there's nice parks and stuff. And then the job of government is really to ensure that taxes are spent effectively on infrastructure planning processes, rather than trying to get themselves constantly re-elected and on bullshit things. And it goes on so often. It doesn't matter which Western democracy you live in, it seems to happen. And the reason I'm singling out Western democracies is we have the systems that people from all the other parts of the world want to come into. Okay. There's not, what I'm saying is there's not Danes or Australians trying to get into Rwanda. Okay, except as they're business people, but they're all Rwandans want to come to Australia and to Denmark. So we've still got that. We're still the torchbearers of all that is fair and all that is just in Western democracies. And
let's see how long that keeps going on. Like,
do you think we're close to maybe it not being the case in Western? Let's call it Western excellence, for lack of any other description.
Oh, dude, I think that's way in decline. I think like all the flaws are like becoming more and more apparent, and like it's also collapsing. Like capitalism seems to be kind of like also on the verge of starting to collapse on us.
What makes you say that though? But I'm just curious. What makes you say that?
It's the thing is like it's built in the way so now we have like the 1% with like being like the what's the word, like the way we kind of like divide our resources.
Yeah.
So like it's like take for America for an example. It's supposed to be like the capitalist dream, like where everybody can go and there's equal opportunity, but it's not really. So like the poor is getting like poorer and poorer, and the rich people are getting richer and richer. And I feel like we kind of see that all over the world, where like divide comes so much bigger, and like we have more and more people living beneath like the poverty line and stuff like that. Feels like this model that we thought wouldn't fail is kind of failing. We also always have like, I think the problem is we are so focused on continuous growth, even though that's not like, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
exactly. And that's why we'll every like handful of years we'll have like the economy will collapse, the stock market will fuck up, and like people will like get fucked over because it's continuous growth isn't really like ideal. It's at some point it'll crumble, like if you keep building on like unstable foundation.
What system of governance do you believe, and what sort of market economy could replace democracy and capitalism?
I'm not really sure. I do believe that like the free market isn't a bad idea. I'm not actually against it. I just feel like we need to have more regulations, like because right now, like especially like with big conglomerates, they like one thing they can do, like I know McDonald's do it here, and like they'll be in tax exemptions. They make so much money, but they'll make sure they'll find like loopholes to make sure they don't have to pay taxes in the places. So one of the things that I know has been proposed and they're working on is like doing global taxes for conglomerates. Because so basically what will happen is like a bunch of countries will go together and be like, you can't sell anything in our country unless you pay this set amount of taxes. Because like the thing is we just need to have enough countries to do it, because like if all of Europe went to McDonald's and said, hey, you're not selling anything here until you start paying taxes, they would like if just that's one of the biggest markets, they would just have to do it. There's like no arguing. But right now they are just allowed to like dodge paying like taxes, even though they're making the most money, like the same with Amazon, all of that shit. Like, so I feel like something to kind of like combat those like, huge ass conglomerates who are like driving like a very unethical form of business.
You're not wrong. And all of their labor forces into third world or developing countries,
exactly.
China, India, parts of Africa, it's bullshit. I know, but this is the thing about virtue signaling, right? It's, where you're all using phones made in China, wearing Nikes made in China again, and clothes Taiwan, or even worse, clothes that are made in Bangladesh, or women are locked up. Women are locked up inside of buildings that do burn down, with the women still inside of them. And yet people aren't looking at these so-called activists aren't looking at that. They're not taking a flat approach. They're only looking at the West and saying the West is fucked, let's look at this. Whereas it's going, okay, so a lot of this labor is supplying products that come into the West. Okay, but what are we doing about labor laws? What are we doing about influencing labor laws in countries where we're wearing shit that comes from these countries? And what are we doing about making things more fair and equitable there? I'm not saying that, you don't wear things and stuff. Of course you've got to, because
it's hard not to, like how like.
Well, it's a globalist economy, meaning that like if you're not, that's one way to support them. It's just we're talking about the conditions, not the fact that they're doing it. And
it's fine that they do it. They just need to do it under proper conditions. And I think that might be like the biggest takeaway of this is like we need to, because the world we're living in a like more and more like globalized world, we need to have globalized laws to kind of like, because you have these big ass conglomerates who can just operate in like all over the world. So they'll find loopholes in all the different laws. So we need to have something to combat them and make sure they kind of like, at least like treat like their workers as humans and stuff like that. But it's also a very big undertaking. And I'm just some fucking musician from Denmark. So it's like, I have my ideas, but like there's probably a ton of shit I don't know anything about that's like, that will make something like that very hard to do.
I disagree with you on that. You're articulate. We're not going to agree on every point, but you're articulate and you've thought about things before you speak. And one of the things, so I'm a big believer in the academic approach. Let's just call it. I'll call it that. Okay, so scientific approach to things that can be, whether it's climate or what have you. Okay, but especially with some of the things you're talking about, just use an academic approach and methodically go through things and talk about them. Key point, without getting emotional. And you haven't done that. You're just talking, which is great. You can do that. Too many. I'm
also an academic, so.
Oh, whereabouts? Whereabouts are you studying?
I don't study anymore, but I did my bachelor's in communications and digital medias. Right around when we started out the band. I feel like most of our band is actually, we have one journalist, we have one bioengineer, and one teacher, and one sound tech. And one guy who's a producer, but most like half of the band have been like went to college and stuff like that.
That's awesome. I went to uni and became a journalist as well, and that's where that's what I was curious before, but I recognised that I needed academic framework around it. Otherwise, you're just talking shit. You're just making things up, basically. And if your ideas aren't tested in an examination room or through assessments, what are you? You're just a talking head, And I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm getting the picture from you, mate. That I'm not saying go ahead and do it, but I mean, if ever this is why this has been such a great chat, because I think in the metal scene, there's too many inarticulate fuckwits that say things. But you're not one of them, and we need more people like you in the scene, to be quite honest with you.
Thank you so much.
Hey, have you got another one coming up in 5 minutes, or have we got?
No, I'm good, man. We have all the time. This is like my last one before I start packing up my shit and heading out to the rehearsal space and meeting up with the guys.
I'll talk about the music again. The guitar work, I particularly like the track "Insatiable." Okay, on the album. Yeah. The guitar work on that is just killer. But what's your favorite track on the album?
It does vary a bit. Like that's changed like 10 times over, because we finished the album in December last year. So we've listened to it so much before it came out. I think right now one of the songs I enjoy playing the most is Exsanguination. Just because it's fun and bouncy, and then it has like that fucking ass beat of breakdown in the end. Yeah. Which always gets people going, which I like seeing the reaction of like a hard breakdown hitting and people just be like, oh.
I can see that. Yeah. That was, I don't think Insatiable, it's not a video, is it? You haven't got a video for that one? It's an album cut? Yeah, I tend to get into the album cuts, I've got to say. It's just one of the characteristics of my taste, But
it's also, I really like Insatiable as well. I like all the songs because we made them.
The album cover too, I'm drawn to that. It's got a bit of a Exorcist feel to it. Is that what you were going for there, or something else?
Yeah, kind of like also inspired. We were heavily inspired by the Midsommar movie.
Awesome film.
Yeah, exactly. And it's actually one of our good friends on the album cover. We've so far we've only we did the EP, but all of our full lengths has been like pictures of, we just used friends and family. Like the first record was a drummer's dad to be dressed up, and the second record was one of my good friends called Nima. We drug him across the floor in his face and took pictures of it, and I think he enjoyed it a lot. And then this time it's our friend, a girl called Mia, who's actually an Danish actor. We used in some of our videos, and we were just like, hey, can we use the face on the album cover as well? And stuff. Yeah, of course.
So have you got merch with the image on the front? Is that how you've done the merch?
Not yet, actually. We think we gave some designs to Nuclear Blast. I don't know if they might be for sale actually already. I haven't kept track on that. I think there's a hoodie with her face on it. And if they're not using it, we're just going to do it ourselves, because I think it's pretty cool.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, that's it, yeah. Hey, something else. You certainly played, and when I say played live, sure, but you've also had appearances on your albums from Trivium's Matt Heafy. He's got a new track out today, funnily enough, his solo thing.
Ibaraki, I think it's called.
Spot on, yeah. I can never pronounce it, but that sounds about right. So it's a video game music or something, or music for a video game, or competitive video gaming. Yeah.
But for CSGO, I think it is.
Something like that, yeah. It doesn't sound too bad. I've got a music show, and I'll be playing it on that in the next one. It's been interesting to see his evolution, but he certainly worked with you guys.
Yeah, we did it. He was on the last record.
Yeah, I think so. I couldn't name the track. I just read the bio, and I thought that was pretty impressive.
That was from the last record. And we also had Jamie from Polaris on that record as well. Just, that's something that we really enjoy. I am, first and foremost, also a music fan. So getting to work with people in bands that I really like is just fucking a dream come true.
Well, there's that Scandinavian Aussie connection again, because not only did you have the fellow from Polaris, but you had CJ McMahon from Thy Art of Murder as well. So there you go. Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Had him on the first record. He killed it. And that also, I feel like that helped give us an initial push to for people to kind of take us seriously in some sense, that there was this name that people knew attached to it. So people have just been really awesome, and most people we've asked, and I just hit them up on Instagram. We're like, hey, I have the song, send it to them. really like what you're doing. If we would love it, you want to jump on it. And like most people have just been like, yeah, that sounds cool. I'm down.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah. That's how you do it these days, electronic media, and you don't even need to be in the same continent. You can just file share and away you go.
Yes, and exactly. So that's also, yeah.
But is there who's on the bucket list then? Because they're pretty big hitters, so no doubt there's some others on the horizon.
Oh yeah, there's obviously a bunch of people that we would like to do something with. I think like our top pick is probably Ghostmane, just because he's very metal adjacent. I know he used to play in a hardcore band, so he knows what it's about. But what he does is still very different, which is something that we kind of look for. Mm-hmm. Like in collaborations, we'll always pick somebody where we know like this is just like perfect fit because they're kind of like doing something very similar to us. But then like having somebody like Matt from Trivium is like, okay, that's kind of a left field pick. So it's just fun to see, okay, what will happen if we like invite somebody who makes something that's very different to us onto a track. Like how is that going to turn out? What kind of like new stuff are they bringing? Is there something like we can learn something from and like carry on like forward?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean the world's your oyster after this album here. Right? I hope to catch up with you guys in Australia, that's for sure. So is that potentially on the horizon?
Yeah, we really want to go. We got offered to do, I've been telling the story in every Australian interview, but we got offered to do a tour as a headliner. And like, I can't remember who it was, like some booking company. They wanted like, they pay our flights, our visas, transportation, and also give us like, like a guarantee in every show. But we actually ended up declining because it was such a good offer and we haven't really played down under yet. So we're like, we don't want this like super awesome dude to lose all his money because we sold 40 tickets. So I think we're going to try to get a support tour first, just to test out the water, see does anybody actually know us? And then if that goes well, we'll hit the guy up and like take him up on this offer.
Very smart. That's the right way to go about it. Yeah. The venues, the issues down here, the venues after COVID are still sorting out who's open and where's where. A little bit. They're still like, a band is booked here and last minute it gets changed to here. And I don't know what the reasoning is behind that. Maybe it's for a bigger room or what have you, but we're starting to see the rise of suburban venues. So not even in the Brisbane city, we've only got one venue now, no, two, maybe three, but one dedicated metal venue after we used to have a couple. And there's only one dedicated metal venue. And I've got to be honest with you, it's fucking shit.
Yeah,
That's the problem. Yeah, it's Blood Incantation just played there the other night, and you could see them, but you're like a sardine, and it's not comfortable in there. And it just makes you think twice about going again, if you know what I'm saying. If you're on the fence about seeing a band, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that's a bit of a bummer that like it comes down to the venue, but that does make sense. Like if it's a shitty experience going to this place that might have like it's cramped, there's shit sound, there's no AC or something like that. It's like. I get that you might be like, oh, I really need to want to see this band to go like put myself through that shit. Like
you get it. That's the issue. I think the agent should have booked a bigger venue. Maybe they were just hedging their bets like what you're talking about. But Blood Incantation have been down here before, and I wouldn't have a clue. I've spoken to Morris and I actually met him at the gig. But who knows how big some bands are? Some bands come down. And you go, how does everybody know about these bands? Because I don't know anybody who knows the band, but here we all are. And other bands seriously play to 40 people. Like Prong. Prong played to about 40 people in Brisbane one night when I went.
Really? I thought that was like a legendary band.
They are. Believe me, I've been a Prong fan. We're one of the first proper heavy bands I ever got into back in like 91 or whatever. And there was fuck all people there. And it was a shame because the band, they put on a good show. Tommy Victor's awesome front man, but this is about 10 years ago, by the way, so things might have shifted in the sands since. But
I hope so.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll see them again. That's the issue. After that happens, it sort of kills it, But
exactly.
You guys aren't on the down. You guys are on the up. So I think you've got a good head on your shoulders. And
I hope so. I hope that like it seems like everything is kind of like panning out right now, which is really nice after having like 2 years of just sitting on our ass, like losing an entire album cycle and like all of that. So
it's just
it
made
feels
the
really
fans.
good.
The fans are more rabid now for it. I'll say. I think it could have gone one of two ways. But all of the gigs I went and saw Ripper Owens toured, and there was a shitload of people at that gig, and that's, he tracks everybody, older people in their 60s even, old Judas Priest fans, to like 18-year-olds who are just getting into metal. So people are out and about, man. They're and they've got the money, because even though inflation and stuff, I get what you're saying before, it's going up, but mate, what do you want to do if you're a heavy metal fan? You want to watch the bands.
Yeah, exactly. And you'll just like eat a pizza list or something like that. Like,
yeah, you'll skip a meal some days. I mean, shit, I was young, obviously, when I was in my youth, mate, I remember having tiny bits of chicken and lettuce just to sort of get by, and you just got to do that sometimes if you want to lead the life you want to lead.
Yeah, I did the same thing, man. I was like studying and playing in three bands at one point, just like, and still working, but Copenhagen is like one of the most expensive cities in Europe. So yeah, I was just like, okay, I have like $200 each month for food and everything. So just have to make it do, and just be like, oh, I remember sometimes like going out in town, getting drunk, and like spending too much money on beer. Like, oh shit, that's my food project for like the rest of the week. I guess I'm just eating. Then it's like 3 cans of baked beans for like a day.
Yeah. It teaches resilience, though, doesn't it?
It does. And the cool thing is now, even though I don't make a lot of money, I still feel like I have a lot, because I'm used to being fucking broke all the time. And now I'm like, I'm not. I just have normal money. I'm like, I'm rich. I can just buy shit, and it doesn't even matter.
Yeah. Well, you're living the dream too. You're literally in the 1% of the 1%, being able to tour in different places and stuff. But you work. I'm not saying you haven't earned it. You worked hard for it, clearly.
No.
And you've got the talent, and it's happened. But it's a great thing, though, isn't it, to live that life, to finally live that life?
It is. It's really cool. But we're also at like the point right now where it's like, it is the dream, but the dream also comes with like some unpleasantries, like in the sense that like the band doesn't make enough money to support it like all of us full time. Like some of us like will be able to work part time on it, and we'll like get paid a bit after tours if they go well and stuff. So like we're making money on the music now, which is fucking cool and like a dream come true. But at the same time, it also like the amount of stuff we're doing also makes it really hard. You can't really have a normal job on the side. Like, so most of us are doing like, I do music videos on the side and stuff like, so people have to kind of like have a side hustle to make ends meet.
What do you use? Use Premiere Pro or other programs?
Yeah. I just use Premiere Pro. That's my favorite, and After Effects.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, with that, I mean, I got taught that at uni as well, and that's what I do the podcast with. And I use the basic functions because I don't need to do anything else with it. But certainly, it's how much time have you got in your hands to learn? It's certainly got a lot of features and stuff, characteristics of the application that allows you to do heaps of things, as you well know.
Yeah, you can do so much with that program. Like, that's also like, because I work primarily in a metal band, that means there's like not a lot of budget to work with. So it's always be like, how can we make something cool where we have like $100 in budget? And a lot of that is just like in being good at editing, just thinking creatively, and being like working out cool angles and stuff like that. So you can do I like doing a lot with a little.
Yeah. Well, you learn to be frugal, don't you? And there's so many YouTube videos out there these days that teach you different things. People are quite smart, and you go, I'm stuck on this bit. Go to YouTube, bang, there's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. That's like usually there'll be something where I'm like, oh, it could be cool to do something like that. Is that possible? Just Google it. And okay, some guy did it, and this is how he did it. I'm just gonna like build on that. Like,
yeah. You just got to have a bit of talent, but by and large, the application can do most things for you, provided you're willing to do the work to work out how to get things done.
Yeah.
I find with it
exactly.
all. Yeah.
You can do so much if you just want to put in the time to figure out how to do it.
Like in life, my friend. Yeah, that's a good analogy for life. Well, look, I'll let you get to rehearsal, brother. It's been fantastic having a chat with you. I've enjoyed this one a lot, actually. I haven't done a lot lately, actually. I've just been so tired and busy. I'm doing my master's too at the moment, so I've just been flat out with everything. And then I've got a gig myself tomorrow night, so I play covers, so I've had to learn stuff. But
that means you get paid, probably.
Yeah, you don't get paid. We get paid $300 a night, so it's not bad. Like, I mean, put it this way, it's never going to pay off all of this shit. You know, I could be. I think I worked out that I've got to be playing for 30 or 40 years before I even pay off the stuff I own. You know, at that rate of $300 a night, because I only play like twice a month, 3 times a month. It's not rare, but it's regular, but not often. If that makes sense, you know.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But I've enjoyed your album, and I'll continue to enjoy it, mate. It's certainly up there, and it's vying for the top 10 album of the year. I'll tell you that now. So
yes.
it's up there, mate. It'll probably make it. So congratulations, just for that alone, but everything else too, brother.
Thank you so much, man. Have a really good evening.
You have a great day, brother. Hope to see you down here.
Yes. See you, man.
Catch you, mate. No worries.
Bye.
Well, there he is, ladies and gentlemen, Andreas from the group Cabal. What a nice fella. I really appreciate that he was willing to go there and actually have a chat without putting parameters on it and say, hey, we're just musicians or what have you, and we don't know about politics. Bullshit. You do know about politics. And I meant what I said throughout the conversation there. Andreas, I'm not saying he undersold himself somewhat, but he is articulate. And from that perspective, if you decided that he was willing to go there and have a conversation, particularly because he is more of the persuasion of the left needs far more articulate people. At the moment, it is just the woke bullshit that is like a huge tide, and the wokeness is just a version of insanity as far as I'm concerned. The left needs people like Andreas to stand up and to have their voices heard. It's very rational. Okay, if you like that chat, there aren't many more just like it over at scarsandguitars.com, but the point is, if you like listening to conversations with musicians, there you go. There are tons more over at scarsandguitars.com. And maybe if you like listening, you like reading too, because I've written a book, Scars and Guitars Volume 1, Conversations from the World of Heavy Metal and Beyond. Click the link in the banner on the front page of the website and you'll be taken to a marketplace of your choice, and you can download a sample. If you do complete the purchase, let me know, because I want to thank you personally. And on that note, I've got plenty more to say about the book. But before I do, I want to bid you a very fond farewell, and I want to thank you very much again for listening. My name's Andrew Mackay-Smith, and I'm the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast. Until next time, it is a very goodbye for now.
This is Eric Rattan of Cannibal Corpse. You are listening to the Scars and Guitars podcast with Andrew Mackay-Smith.
I've been the host of the Scars and Guitars podcast since 2017. The first musician I interviewed for the show was David Vincent from Morbid Angel, and things have just snowballed from there. In all, I've posted almost 650 podcast episodes featuring conversations with many of the leading lights of rock, heavy metal, and beyond. It just got to a point where I thought, I need to write a book about all this, so that's exactly what I did. In Scars and Guitars Volume 1, you'll read a heap of deep reveals and commentary, such as Des Fafara talking about Coal Chamber and why the band will never return.
You know, if you're a band just starting out, you need to hear me. Do not start a band with partners. Ever.
Yeah, wise words there. Sage advice, mate, for anybody.
Don't ever, because I can't go do Coal Chamber right now unless I get others involved.
Phil Anselmo talks about the episode in his career which gives him the greatest sense of accomplishment.
I think the staying power of the fans and the staying power of the songs, you know, whether it's Pantera, Down, or Superjoint, the fans remember the songs.
Alex Skolnick from Testament confirms that, yes, playing the guitar in Ozzy's band is anything but an ordinary gig. Will Silent Oz from Dimmu Borgir write a book? Pa from Sabaton gives advice to people who want to start a band.
Look at the team around you, look at the bandmates. If the guys want to be on the stage, then it's all cool. If the guys want to be backstage, then it's not going to be cool.
Current and former members of Cradle of Filth discuss the band's seminal 90s material. Read about the reaction to George Lynch and Mark from Suicide Silence's comments when they throw shade at then President Donald Trump.
We have this idiotic monster, you know, this egotistical, self-aggrandizing, complete piece of shit in there. I just can't understand how we've gotten to this place.
And yeah, we kicked a hornet's nest with Sepultura. Percussive overlord Gene Hoglan talks about recording with Chuck Schuldiner.
Chuck was always, he was very, very open-minded, and he was into having his musicians that were playing with him just reach out for the best stuff that they had.
Phil Campbell from Motorhead discusses what it takes to get sober. John Five answers his critics who dismiss his tenure with Marilyn Manson.
You know, my name is John Five, and Manson gave me that name, and I had some of the best years of my life in that band and learned a lot.
And we get the lowdown on Treyarch Zagtoth from those who would know, including his mother. All across Scars and Guitars Volume 1, there are moments of tension, relief, tragedy, exhilaration, and throughout it all, you'll obtain insight that I believe no one else has managed to obtain from many of your favourite artists. So treat yourself. Scars and Guitars Volume 1 is currently available as an ebook with a print edition on the horizon. Follow the links attached and download a sample. I'm sure you'll be compelled to read the whole book.